Northwest Insurance. Auto, business, home, and more. Who said insurance was born? Protect your car, protect your family. Northwest Insurance. If you need a helpful team, the best in the community. Grab your phone, what are you waiting for? Northwest Insurance. Northwest Insurance.
Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas, sponsored by Northwest Insurance. I'm your host, Mark Villasana, and joining me as always is my co-host, my main home slice, from torrid tales to modern views. She's got that spark that you'll want to choose. Ladies and gentlemen, the effervescent Miss Lila Levy. Hey, Lila, what's going
Mark,
on?
how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. What's
really
been going on?
Excited about our guest today. First off,
you did it again. As usual, you booked another great guest.
Hey,
Two today.
I know.
Two.
I know long-term friendships, they with extremely interesting people.
You getting around town, Lila's paid off.
Well, that's another.
Okay,
that's another
episode.
Podcast.
Okay. Well, you've done it again. You have another great guest. I mean, I don't know how you keep doing it, but you've done it again. What's been going on with you?
Well,
anything new?
I tell you, look what I have today.
Tell me.
I've got my coffee.
How many shots today, Lila?
9.
9 shots.
Yeah, my favorite barista, Charlie, who I'm gatekeeping. Yeah. I'm not going to tell anybody where the cafe is that I go. I'm gatekeeping it. He saw me coming today, and he said, I got something special for you, Lila. 9 shots.
9 shots?
Yeah.
I thought you had onset Parkinson's, but that's why you're shaking. But it's the 9 shots, apparently.
9 shots.
Okay.
7 wasn't enough.
Okay. You have issues. We have some friends of yours here, so I'm going to talk to them about doing an intervention. Because if 9 shots is a little...
She might, our friend that's here, that's my friend of 29 years, might hop on the train with you and say, I need help also.
Definitely seen the best and worst of Lila.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? How have you been?
I'm good. I'm just doing this, insurance thing, trying to make money, one insurance policy at a time,
For all those insurance junkies out there.
Yes. And if you have any questions about insurance, where can they hear about
info,
it? Or where can they ask us? Excuse me.
They can ask us. They can send fan email. They can ask us any questions. They can bring up upcoming topics they'd like us to discuss. Info at NWAgencies, that's CIES.com. And you can see that also at the bottom of the screen.
Right. And, if I could tell you how many questions we're getting about insurance, the servers are blowing up, Lila.
Yeah, and everybody keeps emailing wanting to know where my coffee place is.
Who would have
Stop asking.
We would make insurance go viral.
I know. I don't know.
And we're getting a lot of Lila questions. Everyone wants to know where's Lila. And we're going to start playing a game. Where's Lila?
They're that bored that they want to know where I am. Oh my God.
I mean, look at it this way. They'll know what to talk to you about because they'll be insurance nerds if they're listening to this.
Insurance, coffees, and puppies.
Okay.
That's it.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, today, Lila, since you brought up insurance, we're going to dive into the interesting world of errors and omissions insurance.
Yes.
Do you know anything about errors and omissions
insurance?
What?
I really don't know much about it, but I will say this. Since I never thought I would work in insurance, and I've been working with you at Northwest Insurance Agency for almost 2 years. Right. And I used to think insurance talk was just homeowners, renters, auto, and commercial, and of course health. But what Northwest focuses on is homeowners, auto, renters, and commercial. And I just thought those were the basic tenets of insurance.
Right. And
working for you, I keep on hearing about and learning about new types of insurance. Liquor insurance, and then now this one that you brought up today. So do tell, please.
Well, it's funny you brought up liquor insurance first. That explains a lot of the way you act on the job sometimes.
I know.
Well, Lila, when I meet people, literally the first thing they want to know is they ask me about errors and omissions insurance. I mean, it's literally off the bat. I can't.
That's the icebreaker.
So due to high demand, here it goes. Errors and omission insurance is, guess what, Lila? It's a safety net. We've mentioned that word over and over again. It's a safety net. Mm-hmm. A net for professionals who provide a service or some type of advice. For example, an accountant, a real estate agent, even an insurance agent, or talent bookers, like hint, hint to our guest who's going to be here in a little bit.
Right.
So, for example, if these professionals make a mistake or forget something important and it causes financial harm to a client, these type of insurance cover things like that. For example, we have talent bookers on today. If the talent booker accidentally double booked an artist, that'd be something the errors and omissions policy would cover. If they miscommunicated the contract details to either party, that's something that errors and omissions policy would cover if a party were to claim damages. Or if they left out key information that would affect a particular project, errors and omissions would cover something like that. So if a client claims that these mistakes cost them money, errors and omissions helps cover the legal fees, the settlements, and other costs. So think of it as a shield against costly lawsuits against honest mistakes. Okay.
Okay. Oh, I like that. You said shield. That could be a synonym for safety net, because we've talked about how we need some synonyms for safety net. That's a good word.
You literally just reminded me why I hired you, Lila. That was brilliant.
It's a yin and yang.
Yeah, we've been asking viewers to send us alternative words, and you just pops in your head. Amazing. So anyway, these are honest mistakes that these professionals make. If they were doing this maliciously or intentionally, this policy would not cover. So that's basically in a nutshell what errors and omissions covers. Did you learn anything?
I did. Yeah. I did. I really did. I mean, every time I can learn a little bit more about insurance, it's going to help me to help you make some money.
I like that. I like the way you think, Lila.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break here. And then when we come back, we will introduce our very, very special guests who are talent bookers. And maybe
excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I want to hear a little bit how they know you and some of her stories she knows about you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. You've been listening to Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila.
In Texas, the road is part of who we are. From Dallas traffic to Hill Country back roads, you need coverage that keeps up. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we're proud to serve Texans with the best home, auto, and business insurance paired with honest rates, real protection, and local agents who understand life around here. Call us for a quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.
Okay, we're back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila. We were talking about errors and omissions insurance, Lila, because of the high demand we've had for it. And the reason we brought up errors and omissions insurance because it can be relevant to who our next guests are. They are talent bookers. This dynamic duo have over 20 years experience talent booking here in Dallas, Texas. A charismatic presenter, Dawn Week Spalding, has raised millions of dollars in press coverage for special teams for Special Olympics. She has worked with country music artists such as Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Brooks and Dunn, and the late Toby Keith. She has brokered sponsorships with many major music festivals for such national companies as Levi's, Keurig, Dr. Pepper, and Budweiser. She is a philanthropist extraordinaire and has worked closely with many charitable organizations, including the famed Cattle Barons Ball. Her business partner, Billy Martin Jr., has been involved in professional baseball many years, including as a stint serving as the general manager of the Texas Air Hogs minor league baseball team that used to be based out in Grand Prairie. Along with his partnership with Dawn, he is currently a Major League Baseball agent. He is famously tied to the baseball field because his father was famed New York Yankees player and manager Billy Martin. Ladies and gentlemen and insurance peeping toms, please join me in welcoming Miss Dawn Weeks Spalding and Mr. Billy Martin Jr.
Woo!
Yes. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
for
It's
being
going to be
here.
fun. We're happy to be here.
Thank you so much. That was a mouthful because you guys are so accomplished. Now, you, Dawn, know Lila from a former life, right?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Lila?
I was in the Deep Ellum Association, and I was the director of marketing for that association in Deep Ellum for about, 3 or 4 years. And Lila was working for the Met magazine and was our salesperson. So I would introduce her to the different business owners in Deep Ellum. So that's where we first met.
And I started there in September of 95, and I want to say we met in 96.
Yeah.
So
sounds about right.
I've known you a long time, and it's been a lot of fun as long as we've known each other, because we've seen each other in a lot of different careers and positions. You, in addition to your partnership with Billy, you have been the director of, am I saying the right title, director of development? VP of Development. See, I'm glad I asked.
It's okay.
The VP of Development for the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce, and we owe her a big thank you.
Yes,
because I joined the chamber about when I first started working for you,
about 2 years ago.
and you brought us some business.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
everybody, you go to a like a luncheon leads, or isn't that
That's
what you
right.
call it? And everybody stands up and is like, thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Dawn. You brought me this business. So you're, as always, in the right business, no matter where you are.
Yeah, well, I have a story that relates to both of you guys now that I think about it. When I was a young kid, my favorite team was the New York Yankees. And the sponsor of our team was the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so there's a tie-in. There's
Yeah,
that string
there's
again
a
we
great
always talk
tie-in.
about.
That's excellent.
Double
So,
time.
Dawn, are you originally from the Dallas area?
I am not.
Okay, where are you from originally?
I was born and raised in Europe. My parents met in London. My mother was working for the BBC. Dad was in the Air Force. So they got married there. They had me. And then we came back to the States for a short while. He got out of the Air Force, became a contractor for the Defense Department. So we were all over Europe most of my life. We didn't come to the States until I was almost in high school.
Okay.
So we lived on the East Coast. And when I graduated high school, I went to the University of Arizona because
All right.
I liked it there. It was warm. We had lived in Arizona for a short time in one of the stints that we moved.
Okay.
So
I wondered what that tie-in was.
Yeah, I
Okay.
went there. We lived there for maybe 9 months and then moved back to the East Coast. And I graduated high school in Boston. I went to college in Boston for a year. And halfway through that year, I transferred to the U of A because I did not I was a track athlete.
Okay.
And I transferred to the University of Arizona to be a track athlete because it was much nicer to work out outside.
And Billy, you had a completely different upbringing, I imagine. Can you tell us a little about your upbringing? Where were you originally born?
I was born in Minneapolis. Being my father's son was kind of like being an Army grad because we were moving every 3 years. His career ended with the Twins. He went into the front office, became a scout. He was a scout when I was born. Then became a coach. Then they asked him to manage their Denver AAA affiliate. So he moved to Denver for a year and a half, back to Minnesota. Moved to Detroit because he had problems with management. And even after taking a team that was in 7th place to 1st place, he moved to Detroit. He took the oldest team in baseball that was in 6th place to 1st place. And then they had trouble with management and we moved to Texas. He took a team that lost 108 games here in Texas with Hall of Fame manager Whitey Herzog. Whitey was fired. The owner hired my father. The press asked him, well, you just fired a great manager. He said, I would fire my mother to hire Billy Martin, was what the owner of the Rangers said at the time. He turned that team around, won another Manager of the Year award. It was the first winning record in Ranger history.
Yeah. And
Then he had some troubles with management and he left the team and moved to New York. We spent summers in the city. Texas became our home. He took that team to the World Series in 76. 77, they won the World Series. And then he was on again, off again for about 3 times with the Yankees. Hired by Oakland. Took them to the postseason. Back to the Yankees for a couple more times. And so it was a crazy life. We moved every few years, but Texas became our home after I was 9 years old.
Okay. And Dawn, you when you got out of school, did you immediately get into this type of industry, or what were you doing when you got
I'd
out
been
of school?
doing it in college for school. We had a big spring fling at the University of Arizona. It was one of the largest in the country. And I kind of liked it, knew it, didn't seek it out as a career right away. I was discovered by a modeling agency in Tucson. And then Kim Dawson, they introduced me to Kim Dawson and they gave me a contract in Dallas. And I moved to Dallas literally the day after I graduated. So I've been in Dallas ever since.
Okay.
And then I had a degree in psychology and marketing. And so I started being a publicist with restaurants and bars around town and opened a bunch of nightclubs that became very, very, very well known in town. There was Pasha. We had the Empire Room downtown. Then ultimately at Cowboys, I was the director of marketing, and it was country music, and I knew nothing about country music. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to do some research. So basically started buying talent about halfway through our opening. We were open about 6 months, and they're like, here, you start buying talent. So I started going to Nashville and researching the up and comers, worked heavily with the radio stations, and came up with the formula to bring in all the new talent. We had a house band that played every night, but we started bringing in all the newcomers. So Garth Brooks played for us first time in Dallas. And then we had, from him, we had Toby Keith for New Year's Eve. We had Gary Stewart quite a bit. He was older, but he had a great following. So we brought a lot of newcomers that nobody had ever heard of, but they'd started to hear them on their radio. And so I kind of made a deal with the radio station. It was KSCS. They were the big ones in town at the time. And I'd hired their DJs to only do our spots so that our spots became synonymous with that one DJ, and built our reputation from there and brought in so many good people. We started out doing it on a Friday. Then our Friday and Saturdays got big without it. So we moved to booking on Thursdays for the most part. So big stars occasionally. Willie Nelson was my first official booking as a professional buyer. So that was kind of fun.
That's
but
a
we
big
did
deal.
it through his golf course. He had a friend that ran his golf course in Austin. And somebody said, hey, you need to call, so-and-so at the golf course. I'm like, okay. So I talked to him. He goes, all right, I'm going to come up and see you. Well, I thought he meant the next day. He was at the airport that afternoon. Somebody called me and they were like, hey, you need to go pick up so-and-so. I'm like, all right. And we got a CMA award within a year and a half of being open.
Oh, wow.
Really?
We joined the CMA almost immediately. You have to be endorsed by members of the CMA to be able to be when you apply. So I got lucky with Conway Twitty and Charlie Pride signed my CMA induction paperwork.
Fabulous. That's
Yes,
awesome.
it was
That's
really cool. It was
amazing.
very cool.
So, and that was pre when I met you, pre Deep Ellum
Yeah.
Association.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was so. That was
that was
what,
Cowboys. I was there. I opened
So-
Atlanta and Arlington for them.
I'm curious,
Okay.
when you said you started going to Nashville. When you go to
Mhm.
Nashville, what would you look for when you
Well,
were looking for this
we
new
were
talent?
lucky,
And what, if you don't mind me asking, what gave you that talent that you felt you were able to?
Well, I have
that
a
you were able to
really
spot
good
somebody,
ear.
yeah.
I have always loved music, and I have a good ear for a good voice.
Okay.
So there's some that were, they were okay singers, but they weren't, and they were good entertainers, but they weren't true talent. So the agencies would do weeks of, I guess you'd call them not tryouts because they'd already signed them, right? So there would be
Showcases.
showcasing. Usually there were 2 or 3 a year that I would attend. They'd be a week long, and there'd be all kinds of events. But the agents, the managers, and the talent were there. If there was somebody new, they would showcase it. So we would go there for a week, make our deals with radio, make our buys with the agents and managers that we knew, and then they would introduce us to new talent and go and listen to them. And Billy and I have adopted a rule, if you will, for our company that we don't book anybody that we have not personally heard in person. So unless they won a Grammy or unless they won a CMA award or an ACM, so we know people like them and they are talented, then it just becomes a phone call. Are they still viable? Because if it's a much older talent, do they still do a good show? So we have that network where we can call somebody and say, hey, is so-and-so still doing a good show, or should I pass and move on to somebody else?
I want to get into how you two hooked up, but Billy, you have a background in the baseball world. How have you been able to translate that into booking talent in the entertainment industry?
Well, to be good at baseball, you've got to be able to perform in those key moments, right? And it's kind of what she was saying about going and hearing the talent. A lot of musicians can put together a good album. That doesn't mean they're great live.
Yeah.
And it happens way more than you think, that you go to see somebody that you're all excited. Maybe they were having a bad night, and maybe they were, because athletes do too, but that's very important, and it's something we take to heart.
In the clutch. So is it true? I mean, is it really a spark you see from somebody when they're up on stage? Or
It's not
just,
even a
is it
spark.
entertainment value?
It's voice.
Okay.
How is their voice? Are they a good singer?
Right.
And then second, are they a good performer? Are they audience engaged with them. Because if they can't engage the audience, then they're going to be boring and they're going to do a terrible show.
Right. Give me an example of somebody that you were way ahead of the ball game on, even some of the radio stations.
Well, Toby Keith, for one.
Okay, so
I had my favorite story about Toby
Please
is
tell.
John Hickman, the Dallas Cowboys. We were all friends back then because I would help them get singers for national anthem. So between him and Joe Avisano, who I worked with on this team, special teams for Special Olympics events, John would go, "Hey, come listen to this singer. I want to know if you think he's any good." So I go to his office and he plays me Toby Keith's "I Want to Be a Cowboy," or should have been a cowboy. And I go, "Okay, what do you want to know?" He goes, "Well, they want to pay us to let him sing at halftime at Thanksgiving." And this was like in October. And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "And they're going to give everybody a CD in the audience." I said, "Okay." Because what do you think? I said, "Well, I've already booked him for New Year's Eve, so I think it's a great idea. It'll help my show big time."
Yeah, I bet.
So that was a fun thing.
He was on my show too.
That's true.
Tell me, how did you two guys hook up?
Keller McCrary
Okay.
called me and he goes, "Hey, have you heard of Sunday Night Showtime?" Because Keller was making, special appearances on his show, Sunday Night Showtime. So he calls me and he goes, "Hey, this show, would you be interested in talking to them and having them interview some of your entertainers when they come through?" I go, "Yeah, if it works out in the schedule and if the entertainer's cool with it, yeah, I'll do it." So he puts me in touch with Billy. I talked to Billy for a year on the phone. Never knew he was Billy Martin and related to Billy Martin, the Yankee. We just became friends on the phone. We did not meet in person for almost a year and a half.
Wow.
But I was sending people to him and I watched the show. And Keller was like honestly kind of a clown on the show because he'd do these crazy things out at
Video man.
Where was it?
All over.
Oh my gosh.
He was video man. That's what we called it because
You do little segments.
Yes.
he'd do little segments that were funny and goofy. And then Don would help me. I'd see that Toby Keith was playing one of our Cowboys in a month, which was on a Saturday night, or our show was on a Sunday night. So I'd call her to get the management number, the agent number, and see if they'd maybe stay an extra day to be on our show.
Well, and it worked out a lot of times because that person may also be staying on Sunday to go to the Cowboys game if it was that time of year and possibly be singing the national anthem. That happened with Steve Warner as well.
With Toby too.
Yeah, and but countless others.
Well, that's awesome. I want to get more into how y'all met, and then eventually want to talk about Integrity Booking. What is the name of your current company you guys are working and booking talent through? So let's take a quick break, Lila, and then we will be right back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas.
Sounds great.
All right.
In Texas, the road is part of who we are. From Dallas traffic to Hill Country back roads, you need coverage that keeps up. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we're proud to serve Texans with the best home, auto, and business insurance paired with honest rates, real protection, and local agents who understand life around here. Call us for a quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.
Okay, we are back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila. We've been talking to Miss Dawn Weeks Spalding and Mr. Billy Martin Jr. We were talking about how you two met, and you went into that story. Tell me a little bit about the business y'all have together, Integrity Booking. What exactly do y'all do? Who are some of your bigger clients and that kind of deal?
Can't really talk about our clients because they're all private.
Okay.
We do booking for national talent, so they have to have an agent at CAA, WME, UTA, any of the bigger agencies where I have had relationships forever. So they know me. They know I have the credibility to not put their artist in a venue that's terrible or with a group of people that are not going to pay, things like that. So they have that. I have that trust. That helps a whole bunch. But more than anything, it comes down to the talent calls. They call me, the client calls us and says, I have this event. It's on this date. This is my budget. And this is the genre of music I want. Sometimes they know exactly who they want. They may or may not fit in their budget. So that's my first discussion with them. Right. So literally we'd been in business 2 weeks when I got a call to do a big show in the Hamptons. That was our first client. Billy got to go because I was too busy here. But who did we take? Oh, it was Leanne Rimes. And
Wow.
then the second time was Johnny Rodriguez for the same client in the Hamptons. Now they live in Dallas, but they have a really nice home in the Hamptons where they do their summer parties, where everybody hears about the Hamptons parties, right? Cattle Barons Ball was a client, so we can mention them. Obviously, we did their Cattle Barons in Dallas and in Houston. I'm actually have been a member of the committee for Cattle Barons since '06.
Right, I read that. Yeah.
So I'm a cancer survivor, so that kind of went along with my philanthropy. Is hey, let's do as much fundraising for cancer so we can find some cures.
I lost my mother to cancer,
To cancer.
also, so
And
made it
Cattle
great
Barons.
for both of us.
Yes.
Yeah, Cattle Barons is strictly fundraising for ACS. It's the largest
Right.
fundraiser in the world for ACS.
Yes. Are you still involved?
I was on the advisory board for a long time, and then I came off of everything, and that's when I booked for them in 22 or 23. We booked the ball. We had Chris Young was the opening act, and I can't begins with a D. I forget the band. Honestly,
Do you only book music, or do you ever book outside of music?
I only do music primarily.
Mhm.
Now, if somebody wants, a celebrity of some sort, I have the access to the agents,
Comedians,
Yeah, we
athletes.
can.
We
yeah,
can.
we can get it.
and we know athletes anyway ourselves personally, so we don't have to deal really with agents on athletes that much unless they're from not from here. But we do private and corporate events only. That way, we're not in the middle of a public venue. So if I see that, say, Tracy Lawrence is playing Billy Bob's on a Friday, I may have an event on a Thursday that he could play privately, and it can get done. And it's a little less expensive for the client that way because he's already going to come here.
He's already
So
here.
it's called routing.
Okay.
So if
That's
there's
what it's
an
a
artist
name for it.
routing,
Okay.
then we'll look for that to help the client, make a better deal.
Go ahead, Lila.
I have a question about insurance.
I love how you did
Yes,
that. I love
the
how you
little
mix it
weave in there. So I'm super fascinated. I think everybody is by kind of crazy stories, right?
Sure.
So can you when I initially called you for y'all to come on here, you said to me, in no uncertain terms, you said we don't book anyone where the venue doesn't have insurance. It's a
Correct.
hard and fast rule.
Right.
So I wondered if y'all ever got into any kind of, I don't know, sticky situations when it
No.
came to that.
Not yet.
Good,
Because when we
good.
give them the contract for the artist, it's in that contract. And in that same contract, we have to have insurance as well. So we have E&O insurance on purpose because of the very things that you mentioned.
Right.
Hey, did I forget to do this? Did I forget to do that? I mean, I will touch on one touchy subject that we're still in the middle of fixing, but we had a hacker, cybercrime, send us a fake contract for an artist we were in the middle of booking. So I'm on my way to Houston to book, oversee a show with the artist.
Uh-huh.
And the agent calls me and says, oh, by the way, you owe us another XYZ. And I go, nope, I sent it 2 weeks ago. And they're like, we don't have it. So somebody had hacked into the email, either theirs or mine, we haven't determined, and gave us a different routing number for the balance. So I had to come up with the balance by the next morning, or this artist wasn't going to perform. So the E&O shall cover that. We're still haggling with them about it, but hopefully it'll get taken care of. We already paid the artist, so
Right.
they performed, so the client didn't get damaged in any way.
Thank goodness we had insurance.
Exactly. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
a perfect example of, you've been in your industry forever
Right.
and ever, and you've never had an issue, but,
Right.
and a lot of times issues come up not because of something you've done, just because of the way some people think.
Right.
You
I
know?
mean, and I turned it in. Unfortunately, because I didn't know about it for
Yeah.
2 weeks, because I thought I'd already paid it. I went to the FBI, and they're like, "We can't help you. If you did not tell us within 48 hours, we can't pull it back, and the bank can't pull it back."
So
But
it's a 48-hour rule.
I was there is. So I turned it into them anyway, because I had just finished going to their academy, the FBI Citizens Academy. I had just graduated, and so I had knew all about this fraud and the cybersecurity issues with that kind of thing. So they're like, "Yeah, we're sorry, but tell us who it was so we can maybe track them for someone else." I'm like,
Just
"All right."
one of the joys of being a business, self-owned business
Right.
owner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dealing with stuff like that. Now, Billy, you're still involved with baseball, correct? Well, tell me a
I
little
am.
about what do you do in the baseball world?
So I'm an agent. I
Okay.
represent players.
Okay.
So I'm an advisor to high school, college players, and become their agent when they sign their contract, and after we negotiate their deal, and then they step into the minor leagues and start their journey to the major leagues.
So you get them early. You try to. Do you actually go out and scout them early, or
Mhm.
okay? So do you do the personal scouting yourself, or
Sometimes.
do you have, sometimes you do? Okay.
Sometimes, I mean,
Okay.
usually, kind of like our music business,
Yeah.
I'm going to lay eyes on them. I want to see myself, and I have to, in my own mind, if nothing else, to credibly talk about them to people in this business I've been in for decades. To look them in the eye and say, this kid can do this, he can do that. If I haven't seen a play,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, I have to be honest about that. I have to say, look,
Right.
I've not laid eyes on him yet, but this is what I understand,
And
and it's not the same.
you've been in and around baseball forever and a day. So tell me, when you're going out and looking at some of these kids, what's the first thing that pops off for you that you say, hey, I want to take a longer look at this guy?
You know, I as a rookie agent, my father had passed. I went into television when Dad died. I didn't think my dream of being an agent would come to fruition. And I come across a client. Next thing you know, I'm doing it, and my other partner, who's in that business, who's a male version of Don, is a real stickler about certain things. And so I would go to the events, I would scout, and I've got good eyes, but I wanted them to get better. So I literally talked to a Hall of Fame scout. I said, help me, make me better. And he said, well, hang on. Think about the old days when you would go to games. Well, first thing he said to me was, trust your eyes. Which I went, okay, what the heck does that mean? He said, well, think about when you went to games as a kid. When you were at your father's games, who did you always look at? Dave Winfield. He goes, there you go. Best athlete on the field. Drafted in the first round in 3 sports. And where he was so right, as a kid, when you're 10 years old with a baseball game, you don't just sit there and watch the game. You get bored. You go start running around the
Right.
stadium. So we try to get to the weirdest places in the ballpark. But if I was on the upper deck, I'd find myself staring at Dave Winfield, who was about that tall at the time. But if I was in the clubhouse or the dugout and he walked by, I was staring at Dave Winfield. I didn't know why. The scout proceeded to tell me why. He's the best athlete. Your brain knows. It goes to him. It watches him. It goes, trust your eyes. They've been there. They've done it. Before that moment, when I would go to a tournament or an event, I'd do all this research and find out who the best players were and who I need to see. After he told me that, I just went and made notes. I like this kid. I like this kid. I was writing down names. Well, sure. I found out later. No wonder I like that kid. He's the second-ranked kid here. But I found lots of diamonds in the rough that way because they weren't on any list, and they got my eyes.
You trusted
And
your
so
eyes, yeah.
That was the best thing I'd learned, to trust my eyes, and I do.
Well, my father was in the insurance business, and I hated going to the office. But I think I went with him because he made me. But just being around that, I picked up so much through osmosis. And I told myself I would never, ever get involved in the insurance business.
Absolutely.
Because of that. And here we are. So I understand what you go through. Not, of course, my dad wasn't, a world famous baseball manager, but
there's negatives to that too, though.
Yeah, I can imagine. I do want to get into that on our next segment, but I want to talk a little bit still about the business. Have you guys had a situation on that one particular situation with the errors and omissions? Did the artists know anything about it at all, or they were in the dark completely,
Well,
or did you have to tell them?
The agency mentioned it after I got paid, after I got the artist paid.
Okay.
And he was so kind when I picked him up to go to the gig. He goes, Dawn, I would have waited till Monday. And I'm like, well, your agent wasn't going to have that. So we are okay. And he was so sweet. He literally sent us Well, he wrote a note to me, but he sent me a whole autographed album and a handwritten note. It was really kind. So, and that was Pat Green.
Wow.
A nice
Oh,
Dallas
wow.
Yeah.
tie.
Yeah.
nice
So,
to-
I mean, whoever
Yeah.
hears
And it came
anything
like,
but
and it
nice
came
things
2
about
years
him.
later after I'd met him.
Do you have any favorite artists that you like, Pat, that you can consistently work with that you can mention?
Yeah,
that you,
I got really good friends with Tracy Lawrence.
Okay.
And so when I can, if somebody asks for him, I'll give him, first shot. But we have an artist that's up and coming that we've used 2 or 3 times here in Dallas, and she's now a spokesperson for Cadillac. She's out of LA and she's a DJ half the time for the Chargers.
Wow.
Which is
that's
kind of fun.
interesting.
So she's in the stadium all the time, but she's a classically trained violinist, and she plays an electric violin covered in rhinestones. But she's also an amazing singer. So she's spinning and singing and playing her violin all at the same time. And she's played 2 or 3 events for us here, and she comes into town all the time.
And how did you become aware of her?
Somebody told me about her. Some girl wanted her for her bat mitzvah.
Oh, really?
And she sent me a list of all these different DJs that she wanted. Well, some were in Australia, some were in LA. They were all here and there and everywhere. This girl, so I listened to her and I was like, you know what? That's really cool. She's amazing. So we brought her in and they loved her.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
It was very cool.
I'm interested how both of y'all who came from different backgrounds, really have joined together and come into a field where y'all trust your eyes and your instincts. That's interesting
and
to me.
in addition to that, you both have full-time jobs, and you do this.
Right.
You have this partnership together, and you're very successful and busy with it. So that to me that's a lot of hustling. That's a whole lot of working and hustling. And I wanted to ask you, Dawn, back to the chamber. You've been there for 4 years, and how is that going? This is the
Going
North
great.
Dallas Chamber of Commerce. And so tell us, for our listener, insurance junkies, tell us a little bit about what you do there and about the chamber and how long it's been around.
Well, it's been around 71 years, which is amazing in and of itself. People ask us quite often, what's the difference between your chamber and the Dallas Regional Chamber? And the DRC is really into economic development. They're the ones bringing the big corporations here, like Goldman Sachs, State Farm, Toyota. They're the reason they're coming to this region. And, you got Universal Studios and things like that are happening here. The PGA, that is their job. And what we do is we feel like we cater to the businesses that are already here. So we work with the DRC on a lot of things. So jointly, we are able to work with the FIFA. We've had Monica Paul come in and speak several times now to our International Business Committee, which is brand new. They've come in and talked to our board. So preparing the city of Dallas for FIFA is going to be like having 9 Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's a really big deal. So we're prepping everybody for that. But our advocacy side is really strong locally and at the state level and federally. If some business is having an issue with government in any way, we can step in with our commission. Our people and our board can help with that. Our COO is an attorney, and he's been on the Parks Board for a long time. He's now running for District 11, Dallas City Council.
What's his name?
His name is Jeff Kittner. And I can tell you this, Ken Malcolmson's the CEO. I'm the VP of Development. Jen Colatrulio is in events and marketing. And then our VP of Communications is Megan McQuarrie. So we're a small team, but we're pretty mighty when it comes to advocacy. And the networking piece is huge. Every single event we do is tied to networking. It doesn't matter what it is.
Every single, I went to
have-
quite a few. Every single one is tied to networking.
Right. So either before or after the event, we let people tell us who they want to meet, and we connect them. Between us, there's a lot. We have a new strategy advisor named Luisa Del Rosal. She's also a professor at SMU. So we have ties everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing for me. It's some of the nicest people I've ever worked with in my entire career.
I think it's awesome all the work y'all do behind the background to keep the city of Dallas
Right.
rolling, moving, and growing. And Well, we have to take a quick break, but I do want to hear a little more of that. And when we come back, I'm going to put my baseball nerd hat on, and I'm going to really ask Billy a whole bunch of questions about the Yankees and his dad. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, we'll be right back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila.
In the heart of Dallas, we know that life moves fast. And when it does, you need an insurance company that's as reliable as the city we call home. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we're proud to be a part of the Dallas community, offering customized coverage to protect your home, your car, and your family. Whether you're navigating downtown or enjoying a weekend in the suburbs, we've got you covered every step of the way. We're more than just an insurance company. We're your Dallas neighbor, always here to help. Northwest Insurance, proudly serving Dallas.
Okay, we are back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila. We've been speaking with Miss Dawn Weeks Spalding and Mr. Billy Martin Jr. of Integrity Booking, and they've been telling us the fascinating things they do with booking talent. But Lila, you know me, I am a baseball geek,
Yes.
and I'm not going to let Billy Martin Jr. escape here without grilling him about all things baseball.
Mhm.
And both of you and my favorite teams are the New York Yankees, or
Yes.
is the New York Yankees.
Since I was little.
Oh, and
Dawn's.
Dawn's. Okay, so
And we're assuming yours too.
So Billy, I hope you're not doing anything in the next 3 or 4 hours.
Don't assume anything.
Okay.
We'll make
Okay.
an ass out of you and me.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I was saying, Billy, I hope you're not doing anything in the next 3 or 4 hours. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to start asking
We're going to keep
questions.
you here for a
Okay,
while.
for those of y'all who don't know, we really didn't get to it too much, but Billy is the son of famed and legendary baseball manager Billy Martin. Your father had a long career playing, correct, with the Yankees, and then went on to manage the Yankees along with several other teams. I'm curious, me being a geek here, what was your dad like, and what was it like growing up being the son of Billy Martin?
To try to explain it to people sometimes, growing up in Arlington, Texas, going to a little bitty elementary school with a bunch of kids whose parents worked at General Motors, they'd say, man, I wish my dad managed the Rangers or the Yankees. I'd say, I wish my dad worked at General Motors with your dad. They'd look at me funny, and they get it. We get to see our dad every night. I could see him every night, but it was on TV most of the time.
Yeah.
And people assume things about you. They assume I'm going to scream and yell and kick dirt on them, and probably drink a little too much or might get in a fight with them. But there are also great things about it too. I've met 6 presidents and celebrities and gotten to be in the clubhouse and see things that other people never get to see, and the different sides of the athletes. Because they're all just people. They really are. It's helped Dawn and I in our business because we don't get all starstruck. We know they're just people doing their job. Their job happens to be a little more exciting and fun than the rest of us, but they just want to be treated like normal guys.
Yeah. Well, the 8-year-old me doesn't believe a word of that. They're all superhuman, and they can all leap tall buildings. So your dad was a manager during the 70s when the Yankees won a couple of World Series. You hung around the clubhouse then. Were you aware at the time that you were kind of living in a historical time, or you just a kid just say, "Hey, in the locker room running around"?
That's where it was most of the time.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, you don't sit around and, wow, I'm very lucky. I'll tell you where it hit me. I'm 14 or 15. I'm in uniform. I'm traveling with the team. I'd spend at least a couple weeks every summer traveling with the team and being with Dad. And we're in Fenway Park, one of the oldest parks in baseball. And I'm in left field, and I've got on Yankee uniform, but I've got Thurman Munson's catcher's mitt on my left hand. I'm shagging balls with a catcher's mitt for some reason. And a ball hits the green monster and makes that iconic thunk that only the monster sounds like. And it hit me right then. It's like, wow, Babe Ruth used to run around this outfield.
Yeah.
And the DiMaggio brothers and Ted Williams. And all of a sudden, I was getting a little nervous. And the next fly ball hit to me, my knees were wobbling a little bit as I was going to catch that one. And it really did hit me kind of how lucky I was. Because as a kid, you look at the other stuff. You look at the Dad's gone all the time.
Mhm.
I don't get to go fishing with my dad like my buddies do. But my father was so good at throwing the love out. I always knew he loved me, and so it really didn't matter from that standpoint.
Did it bother you at all that you almost had to share your dad with the public?
Yeah, at times.
Yeah.
Sure, we'd be at dinner, and some joker would walk up and say, "Hey, Billy, can I buy you a Miller Lite? Didn't get fired today, did you?" You know, and I'd want to say, "Dude, leave us alone. We're having family dinner right now."
Yeah.
But people didn't realize that this was their one moment to meet the celebrity, and they didn't look at it from that angle. And my father was really polite to people like that. He'd take one or two zingers, and then you finally say, "Hey, enough. You're getting a little overbearing. Go sit down." And if they didn't, they wished they had. But celebrities were all different about that.
Yeah. You played baseball when you were growing up?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. You had
including the men's 30, 40, and 50-year-old leagues.
Okay, so you're still playing, huh? Or
Every
did you-
man needs to be a little boy at least 3 hours a week.
That is fabulous. So growing up playing, did you get a lot of guff from opposing players because who your dad was?
Yeah, but then ask them what happened to them.
I read a story about your dad coming to one of your games. He wasn't able to come to a lot of them, but the one game he did come to, you went 5 for 5. Tell me about how proud you must have been that moment, man.
My dad thought I was a lot better than I was.
Yeah.
Because
there you talk about performing in the moment. You did it.
I did, which is always going to make me wonder because he had the Yankees offer me a contract.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Really?
But every time he laid eyes on me, I played so much above and beyond what I was normally like. That high school game he came to was against Richland. I still don't understand why my coach batted me in a 3-hole and played me in left field, a position I'd never played in my entire life. I think he was trying to make me mess up. I really do. Why would you put me in left field? I'd never played it in my life. I played second base 97% of my games. Little short, little third. Puts me in left field, but he also batted me in 3-hole. I was normally 1 or 2 or 7 or 8, depending on how I was doing. First pitch I saw, I came about 6 inches from what would have been my only high school home run, and got 4 other hits. And of course, my father thought that was cool, but he didn't think that was near as cool as the fact that I beat up the catcher on the other team, because all my football buddies were sitting with Dad in the stands, and they said, "See the catcher, Mr. Martin? Billy beat him up right over there in the parking lot after one of the basketball games." And this guy was about a foot taller than me, and so Dad thought that was so cool. He was messing with the kid. "Hey, boy, hope you can hit better than you fight."
That's awesome.
I tried to get, that guy was trying to start a fight with me on the field that day too. And because I think that's what Dad wanted. I think he wanted to see me fight.
Yeah, if my son's out there, please get into a fight. That'd be a proud moment, please.
I already said I'd get a couple of hits.
Yeah,
Now let me see
yeah,
him hit a couple guys. But yeah.
I'm going to throw out a couple of names out there, and then I'm going to ask you a question about who maybe had a real influence of yours that was a friend of your father's. Just a famous Yankee in New York, Reggie Jackson. Who give me some thoughts on Reggie Jackson? You probably met him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Reggie was great to me, even when all of the weird stuff was going on between he and Dad and Mr. Steinbrenner. And Dad noticed, pulled me aside one day and said, "Reggie's good to you, isn't he?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Keep it that way. Don't let our crap get in the way."
That's awesome.
And yeah, and he meant it.
Was Reggie a personable, easy to get to know person, or was he quiet? What was he? Because he was my favorite player.
Okay. He didn't have many friends on the team. He kind of kept to himself and the reporters. And like I say, he was good with me. I don't, it's hard to say. Like a guy like Thurman Munson, man, those players looked up to him so much. It was such a different vibe. But Reggie was the highest paid player in all of baseball in those years, So it was very different. And there was a ton of drama in the dugout, in the locker room, with the New York media stirring it up, adding gas to every little flame.
Always.
It was a crazy time.
In the summer of, it was either 78 or 79, I caught Reggie on a good day because I went to a game and I had one of those books you get at one of the Scholastic book fairs, and it was just a little book written about Reggie, and I had it with me, and I took it behind the dugout, and I asked him to sign it, and he signed it, and I have it framed on one of my walls at my house. So I'm just he's my favorite player. But that's really some cool insight into
That
him.
is. That's it.
Well, Dad loved his ability to step up in big games, which they both had. My father was the same player as well. Actually, my father was not near Reggie as an everyday player.
Your dad played second base, correct?
Correct. But in the postseason, my father was a completely different beast. He went from a 250 batting average with no power at all to a 333 batting average with huge power. He and Mickey Mantle hit back-to-back home runs 3 times in World Series play.
That's incredible.
What's even more incredible about it is my father batted in the 8 or 9 hole usually. But the manager knew my father so well and knew how he stepped up so big in big games that he'd move him up from the 8 or 9 hole to the 5 hole behind Mickey Mantle. Now think how crazy that would drive an analytics person today in baseball.
Yeah.
What? You're putting the little second baseman who can't hit any home runs behind Mickey Mantle? And they
a clutch player. That's what clutch people do in clutch in situations.
Absolutely.
Okay, you mentioned Mickey Mantle. That was the other person I was going to ask about. Your dad was really close with him. What were your thoughts? Any thoughts on Mickey Mantle? I know there's a million of them, but
yeah, there are. Mickey, probably the most insanely talented human to ever get on the field. People don't realize he still has the fastest time to first base in baseball history.
Wow, did not know that.
To this day, nobody would have guessed it. But he also hit balls farther than anybody ever did. And they didn't lift weights back then. They didn't know about that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Mickey did certain things to strengthen his wrists and forearms. But the off season for them back then was healing. My father said they would tape him up. And tape him up like a mummy before the games and ace bandage and stuff. But to let people know what kind of heart he had, what kind of human he was. When my father passed, I just graduated college. And I was a mess. I took my first job in television, and I'd get a call from one of the Mantle boys twice a week. Dad wants to take you to dinner tonight. Well, when Mickey was drinking, dinner meant 3:30, 4 o'clock. He was ready to have a drink.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to go to my boss, Lee Martin, and tell him that and get out of here. Go have fun. Mickey would tell me stories about my father that I'd never heard before, that my own father never told me. And it made him, one day, I wore glasses back then. And one day he's kind of swiping at my face. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, take those glasses off. I pull the glasses off, and literally right then a tear runs down his eye. He says, now you look like that little Dago I miss so bad. And I cannot go up. If you'd like me to, I'll tell you one of those stories that he told me about my father that hopefully will be changed one day.
Please.
In the 1953 World Series, my father was MVP of that series and won the Babe Ruth Award. He actually surpassed Babe's record of 12 hits in a 6-game series. And Mickey said my father got hosed out of a hit in that World Series. He hit a ball on the left side of second base, on the shortstop side of second base, where Brooklyn Dodger shortstop, Hall of Fame shortstop, Pee Wee Reese could not get to it. But Hall of Fame second baseman Jackie Robinson, who was playing second for them, ran all the way across second base, dove into left field, and barely touched the end of the baseball on a complete layout dive. Mickey said it was absolutely a hit. Everybody in the ballpark knew it was a hit, but they think the official score was a racist and wanted to give Jackie an error. And every now and then I'll post on Facebook or something.
Yeah.
Here's how racism hurts us all.
Right.
That cost my father what would have been a record 13th hit in the 6-game series. He'd had over a 500 average in a World Series, which nobody had had at that moment. And it's just another one of those things. My father never even mentioned that to me. Not once. He never worried about it. And Mickey said it was such a hit. It was, everybody knew. And he never once mentioned. I even started looking it up, and there's interviews of Dad
talking
saying,
about it.
"Oh, shucks.
Yeah.
All that matters is we won the game." And,
Yeah.
he said all the right stuff. But
Your father sounds like a profound man, and I could go on all day.
On and
right?
on.
But unfortunately, we have one last question.
One-
Yes, go ahead. You go.
Miller Lite, the Miller Lite commercials, and I think you have a picture
Yes,
to show us,
yes.
don't you?
absolutely.
Okay, so tell us for those young insurance junkies who don't
Yes.
know about the Miller
Yes.
Lite commercials,
Please tell
give us a little background.
So it weirdly became almost like a fraternity to those guys. They didn't make much money at all. I think my father would have paid them to do the commercials. He had so much fun doing them, especially the group ones.
Yeah.
The group ones were a blast because they were all drinking and having a blast doing the commercials and just ad-libbing. The guys would mess with everybody. Rodney, they all mess with Rodney. Just to
Rodney
hear,
Dangerfield.
to
Yeah.
hear his comebacks.
Yes.
Because he was so funny, and they loved those commercials. I mean,
And those went on for several years.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't
Do you have
forget
that-
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and your father was always great. And if you don't know what they're talking about, Miller Lite used to have commercials where they had ex-athletes on there all the time, and they were funny commercials. So take a look on YouTube and take a look at them because they're awesome.
Bob Uecker,
Bob Uecker was on there.
Rodney Dangerfield,
Yeah.
your dad. I love those. My dad and I would crack up at those commercials. We couldn't wait to see the new ones. They were the best.
Oh, yeah. Dad did them with George Steinbrenner, the
Right.
hiring, firing again.
Yeah, we
He
could do a whole
brought Mickey,
podcast.
Whitey. Oh, yeah.
With the questions I'd love to ask you about your dad and George Steinbrenner, but we unfortunately Lila has to get back to work.
I
So-
do. But wait. Don't you have a picture?
Oh,
Can we
yeah.
see the picture?
Oh, I've got several pictures. I mean,
The one that you just showed him.
Yeah, I think
I
he
can
was
get you-
showing us earlier a picture of
Your dad
yeah.
from
And
one of the
Charlie
one of the
commercials.
commercials.
Charlie
Yes,
Pride.
your
Yeah,
dad,
with
your
Charlie
father, and Charlie
Pride.
Pride.
no,
Yeah.
here it is. I did this, and this was. I don't know if this was during one of the commercials. So I'm not sure if Charlie did it, but if
How do you show it?
Yeah, just
If you
right
look-
there on the camera, right there. Yeah.
if you look at it, Dad's wearing a Miller Lite sweater,
yeah,
holding a
Holding
Miller
a Miller
Lite,
Lite beer. That's awesome.
And-
That's how I remember.
and he wasn't even really a beer drinker.
Yeah,
I mean, to he and Mickey and those guys, beer and
Beer.
wine,
was
that wasn't drinking.
like water, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the commercials, Dad was a loyal person, and before the commercials, if he'd have a beer, maybe he liked having a beer with steak every now and then. He'd say, "Give me a beer," and the waitress would say, "Well, what kind?" He'd say, "A draft." Okay, because he
Yeah.
really didn't care
He didn't care.
until Miller Lite, and then he always ordered Miller Lite.
That's a cool picture.
Yeah, that's him and his friend Charlie Pride, who played AAA baseball and was pretty talented, and would come get at bats every spring training when
I
my father
remember
was
seeing those
manager.
videos. Yeah,
That's so
awesome
cool.
times.
Nostalgia.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, we have a tradition here where it's called Let's Cover It. And what we do is we ask our guests 5 questions, the same 5 questions we ask all our guests. But we kind of want to get your opinions on these things. And they're all based around Dallas because you guys are people that make up Dallas, that makes the engine of Dallas run. It's been so interesting to speak with you. But I'll let Lila ask this first question.
I'm gonna ask
and
the
give us your
first
opinion.
one. What is your favorite Tex-Mex restaurant in town, and what's your go-to dish there?
Dawn, you go first.
All right,
Yeah.
Macero,
Okay.
because that's our friend from way back at El Phoenix, and then he did Mi Cocina, and then he did Macero. Now he's got Dos Mesas, but I love Macero. Usually I get nachos. That's my favorite.
Okay, regular nachos, or do you get beef, chicken, fajita?
Probably fajita.
Okay,
Usually,
What about
now I'm
you,
getting
Billy?
hungry.
you know.
When the Rangers picked us up at the airport, which was Love Field in 1973, to hire my father because DFW was not built yet, they put us in a limo and drove us straight to Fort Worth, Texas, to Joe T. Garcia's.
Can't.
And that's where they gave my father the big sales pitch. I had dinner number one. You have two choices there, number one and number two. And I still order dinner number one every time I go.
Okay, and what's on that?
That's where you get enchiladas, tacos.
You get the whole thing.
You get the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Those
Little
their
sampler.
nachos.
They're
oh
really
my God.
chalupas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they are.
Oh my! Now I want nachos,
That's
y'all.
crazy. I never knew
Starving.
that they took him there and sold him on the Rangers, huh?
Yeah.
There. That's
Well, think about it.
interesting.
Pick us up in Dallas at Love.
Yeah, drive you all the way. You had no
to Fort
choice.
Worth.
They probably spent 45 minutes just
Hilarious.
selling them on the
Completely bypassed
deal.
Arlington.
Yeah. Okay, same question with barbecue. What's your favorite barbecue restaurant here in the DFW or the Dallas area, and favorite go-to dish?
I like Dickies.
Dickies. Okay.
I don't know. I just do.
Yeah.
They,
well, it's
they do. I usually just get the barbecue
it's so
sandwich.
consistent.
And then since I found out that they have a foundation now that supports first responders worldwide, they have over 600 stores now, internationally too. And I didn't know that until they became a chamber member, but I was already a fan of the barbecue. So I worked with them on a lot of different events. We did some fundraising for the local firehouse. It's right by our office. And
Oh, yeah.
got
I
them
came
all
to that
new.
ribbon cutting.
They came. We did kind of a ribbon cutting of all the new furniture and everything, and Dickies catered, and then helped us find a great barbecue grill for them at the firehouse.
Nice.
And Lowe's stepped in. The local Lowe's stepped in and helped with that too.
Great. Not only are they good barbecue, they help the community.
Right.
Yeah,
That's key
very
for
important.
me. And
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
already a fan, so now I'm extra loyal.
Well, I'm gonna go get Dickies after this line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first nachos.
First nachos.
Yeah.
Well, we
What
can
about
go-
you, Billy?
Well, it's-
Please tell me there's some history behind your.
There's a lot. There is.
Okay.
So David's Barbecue in Arlington. David's the grandson of Red Bryans,
Wow.
and so who actually did my.
And what is
Glad
it?
you
What?
had barbecue there.
Tell me
the
what.
heck?
Tell me again. What's the name of it?
David's.
David's in
It's
Irving.
in Arlington.
In
It's
Arlington.
It's a
David's in
little joint.
Arlington.
And we have a new one called Hurtado.
Yes.
heard about that
Yes. That I've had that.
Oh
That
my
is
gosh!
good.
And when you go to a Ranger game, there is a little Hurtado booth in there.
Ooh.
Go there. It's
Ooh.
it's
Good to know.
Hurtado,
Oh,
Hurtado.
Yes.
I've been hearing
I like
about
Friday.
that.
Friday. That's where I'm
Being
going.
of Hispanic
Aaron, you hear that?
affiliation, I
Yep.
like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
That's
Yeah,
where
I've
I'm
heard- I've
going.
heard-
I will
okay.
send you a picture, and you will be jealous of me eating barbecue at Hurtado.
I'm
Thank
jealous
you,
of
Billy.
you anyway.
I'll send you
That
a
sounds
picture
awesome.
too,
There you go.
and Dawn, I'll send you one,
Okay.
so everybody can be jealous.
We all need pictures of Lila. All right. Third question. In your opinion, Dawn, who is been the best Dallas Cowboys coach in the history of the franchise?
Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Why do you say that? Just because
Love
you worked
him.
with him? Just
Uh-huh.
like the hair?
Well,
or
yeah, all of it.
all of it?
Everything
You
about
love
him.
everything about him.
He
Okay.
was kind of a badass.
Okay. I like that. What about you, Billy? What do you think?
That's
And why?
that's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. I was born in Minneapolis. Okay, I was
Bud
jumping
Grant.
up and down, cheering for the Vikings who had won
Right.
when the Hail Mary pass happened.
Yeah.
And what? He
Yeah.
pushed off. And moved here after that, hated the Cowboys.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until the day after Dwight Clark's catch to beat the Cowboys that I became a Cowboy fan.
Really?
Because I got so mad that everybody was walking around hacking on Danny White.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, it wasn't his fault that Joe Montana took the ball down with a minute and a half when Danny got the ball with 4 minutes. The Cowboys were behind. he drove down and
Right.
scored.
And he almost
did his
scored
job.
again. If you remember, he almost scored
And
again.
he almost scored again. It wasn't his fault.
Right.
And they were blaming him. That's why I went, oh, crap, I just became a Cowboy fan. And cheered from then on. But, I mean, Mr. Landry was such a class act, and I was lucky enough to meet him and doing my show. I have a hard time saying anybody could be a better guy than he was. But Jerry and Jimmy together were so insanely great. And I don't think either one of them have been very good without the other. And I wish they'd just hug and get over it and get back together.
So final answer is
Bud Grant.
Bud Green. I like that.
There we
I
go.
like that. Okay. You go ahead. Larry.
You're going to ask this question because this is your question.
Okay.
Okay.
In your opinion, was the JFK assassination done by a lone gunman, or was there a conspiracy involved?
Definitely conspiracy.
Conspiracy. Why do you say that?
I've read every single book
So have I.
before I moved here. I met with the producers of JFK when Oliver Stone made the movies here. And they said they interviewed somebody down at the courthouse that was there that day in the jail. And he said when they interviewed with them, him and the director, it was Oliver Stone and his producer. He said, when we came out to our car, the hair on the back of our neck stood up because we weren't sure if our car was going to start or blow up, because they felt that
They were
eerie.
threatened.
They
Really.
felt threatened when they talked to these people. And I'm like, all right, there you go. And I mean, I'm not a physics expert by any stretch. And I've been to the 6th floor museum a few times. It's just, and I'm not a gun person, but one bullet didn't, there's no way that one bullet did all that.
Well, I had been a conspiracy theorist, and then in talking to guests week after week, everyone has answered lone gunman. So they've kind of brought me back to the middle. But finding out that inside
That's
information.
compelling. That is compelling.
I'm
That's got me.
back.
That's got me moving
I'm
that
back
way.
with black boxes.
Seriously.
and
Do you mean that
aliens. and
same
everything.
jail that let the mobster down in there?
Yep.
The
Yeah.
day that
Jack Ruby? Yep.
So you tell me, you
come
go
on
ahead.
down
give
there
me-
and let him down there with a gun?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, that jail. Okay.
So I'm assuming you're conspiracy theory also.
Well, I've sat at that very spot where Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly made that shot with open sights. And I'm here to tell you that's not possible.
Yeah.
It's not. And
He's
I
a
am
gun
a gun
guy.
person.
He is a gun guy.
I am a really good shot. And that would be a hard shot with a scope
Even with a sniper rifle,
that
which
made.
he did not have.
Okay, I like that. I
No,
like
Wow.
that. I like the way.
Wow. We're kind of waffling
I know.
now for
I
how
know.
we feel.
I'm just
Well,
going to
come
say.
on, think about what we're talking about. There was
I mean, there's a lot going
Way too
on during
much
the
going
time,
on.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot of coincidences. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah.
Now I don't know what to
And I
do.
did a lot
a
of
moving
research.
vehicle. That shot with an open scope is
Impossible. 3 shots to get bolt action. That 3 shots, it's impossible. That's what I say. But next week someone will be in here and give me a compelling argument on the other
On
side.
the other
and
side.
So we'll decide. Go ahead.
All right,
You
we've
go
got
ahead.
our final question, and that is, who do y'all think? We'll start with you, Dawn.
Mhm.
Who do you think really represents Dallas?
Someone asked you, Don, who is Dallas? You
Who
would
is
say
the best representation of Dallas, Texas?
Charlotte Jones.
Charlotte Jones. Why
Okay.
do you say her?
Well, she's very articulate. She's very intelligent. She's a great female leader example. And she leads by example. And she knows a lot about the business. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up being president of the Cowboys.
That's a fascinating answer. That's
It
a great
is.
answer.
That's
It's
a different
fascinating. That's
answer
out
than
of
we've
left
had.
field. That's not nothing we've heard before. So,
Mm-mm.
what about you, Billy?
God, that was so tough because
Can't say Bud Grant again.
Charlotte was born
Yeah.
in Dallas.
We can't use
Yeah.
Bud Grant again.
No,
No. I mean,
probably not. But it doesn't matter. She's out there.
Y'all can fight about it at the office later. Let's
Right.
yeah, I
duke
mean,
it out.
who's
Duke it out
yours?
on your
But
own
Who would
terms.
you choose?
But who do people think about? I mean,
Yeah, Billy.
sadly, I think the
Billy,
world thinks
who
of
is
JR.
Dallas?
I think the world thinks of JR from the old
But
show
he's
Dallas.
We have had maybe 90% of our guests have said JR.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
That's
easy.
For-
I mean, that's
a
not who it is
variety of
for me,
reasons.
but I mean, I think that's what the world sees because whenever I'm anywhere in another state, in another country, and they say, "You're from, where are you from?" I say, "Well, I always say Dallas because nobody knows where Arlington is." They say, "Oh, JR, haha."
Yeah. That's amazing. I think that
We've
show
had-
went off like in 89 or
Yeah.
90,
Right.
and it still resonates because
Gordon
Sure.
said it,
yeah,
Elizabeth,
Gordon Keith said it.
Martha,
Yeah.
and now
Martha
and now
Tiller.
Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow, that's
because you
wild.
could say any great cowboy. You could say
Right.
Roger, Troy, any of them. You
True.
could say Tom Landry.
That's who mine would be. Mine is Tom.
I thought
That-
you meant
I-
somebody alive.
But it,
That represents them now.
it can be.
It can-
It's
you can
whatever
take it
your
wherever you
perception
want.
is.
Sure,
I mean,
I got you.
First
Truly.
time I was asked a question, I answered Lila, so it took me for a surprise.
There you
and
go.
I just did that,
And
so.
then we gave you a drink and
Yes,
said,
and then I
"Hey,
go,
Where's
you
the
need
truth? Where's the
Right.
truth?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Dawn and Billy, I cannot tell you thank you enough for being out here, driving
Well,
all the
we
way out here.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Great
It's
time.
been a
And
lot of fun.
And I could go on and on about the business or the baseball, all of it. But if you don't mind, get their phone number so we can get them back.
Oh, I have
She's
Dawn's
got
phone
our
number.
number.
Okay, great.
And you see my 9 shots of coffee. I wasn't too overpowering.
I do want to say one more thing about integrity booking. The reason
Please.
we named it integrity booking is because we saw so much hype from other agents that charge so much more. So just so that you guys know, for a corporate event, we charge 10%. And that's 10% of the talent fee and production and travel, because we negotiate all three of those things. Then for a nonprofit, we only charge 5%.
Wow.
And the talent,
Really?
you can go as high up on the
Yeah.
entertainment scale
as long as they got a
what-
budget.
get the money, right?
Uh-huh.
That's
Exactly.
awesome.
But for a nonprofit, you give them that much of
Absolutely.
a good deal.
Right.
That's great. That's
Anybody
very
out there
nice.
listening that needs talent, please give Integrity Booking a call.
And if you need some insurance info,
Tell them where. Lila.
and if you want to get back to me, if you want to ask me where I get my coffee from, I may tell you. If you want to give us some, if you think of a good guest we could interview, or if you want to, secure some auto,
Home.
some rental,
Yeah,
or
anytime.
commercial
Yeah.
insurance, info at nwagencies.com, or what's the phone number, Mark?
214-352-5656
Yeah.
or 855. I'm sorry. What is it again?
I don't know.
Oh,
'cause
wow.
It's
It's
new.
brand new. God, we're
I
great
know.
salesmen,
What is
aren't we,
wrong with
Lila?
us?
855-887-5656.
Phew.
That's 855-887-5656.
Or if you want to, do the opposite of complimenting us, because we don't know our 800 number, you can email us
You're more
also.
than welcome to send
But
us-
hey, we really appreciate everybody listening. And Dawn and Billy, we really appreciate y'all coming, because y'all came here from Arlington and you were stuck in icky traffic. So thank you.
Thank
You're
you.